Well, it's this time of year we think about where our food comes from. It's harvest time when a lot of fruits and vegetables are actually gathered. So these beans here are actually gathered about this time. Peas, like them, come from bushes. Potatoes are dug up out of the ground. That's where we get chips from. There, when we peel this, cut into small slices, they're called chips and fried up, and that's where they come from. Apples, so we get apple juice, are actually harvested from trees, along with these easy peeler mandarins. Chicken nuggets come from chickens, and these fish these fish fingers come from the sea. The fish that's caught. These eggs here, which we use for so much home baking, they come from chickens as well. But I'm going to look at one particular really important harvest, and that is where we get bread from. Bread comes from flour, and flour comes from wheat. It's a plant that's grown in the soil. See it all over the place and wonder what it's used for. We're going to go to the wheat fields, and we're going to go back to the beginning of August, a day that was traditionally known as Lammas Day, the day when the wheat harvest comes in. I'm standing in a wheat field, and the wheat is being harvested. It's right at the beginning of the season. The wheat has been grown by virtue of the sun and the rain, all things from God. And today it's finally ready to be harvested. So today we remember also farmers who have to worry about whether the weather will be right. When is the right time to cut? When is the right time that they can be sure to cut, that the wheat will have the right amount of protein and it will get a good price for them. Here's a big sheaf of the wheat that the farmer has cut. Well, I've got these ears of wheat, they're called the top bits of the wheat. Inside the ears consist of little seeds, and the seeds are going to be used to get our flour. But first of all, we need to separate them. So what I'm going to do first of all to separate them, I'm going to use a process called winnowing, which for this purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ears of wheat and I'm going to put them inside a pillowcase, and in the pillowcase I'm going to bash them up and down a bit and separate them. I want to bash the ears until eventually everything is split up. Well, I've given it a really good whacking for the last 2 minutes, winnowing, and what that does is it breaks up the ears of wheat into two parts. Well, it's in my hand here. We've got the chaff, which is the light bit. We don't want the outer husk. I'm blowing this off, and what is left now is only the the inner bits, which are the kernel, which contain flour. So this is what we've got left. The kernels that are on the inside of the ears of wheat. And now I'm going to grind them down. I put them inside a small grinder. Of course, in a modern day mill, much like the old-fashioned windmill, they would have a big grinding stone, and the kernels of wheat would be ground down to fine flour inside it. That's what happens inside a windmill. So I'm going to grind them up now and we'll see what happens. So we've got the finished article, a very nice flour here, which we can use for bread. Flour is really what it's all about. Flour is used for baking bread, for pasta, for pizzas, everything where we want dough. It's even for making cakes. Different kinds of flour were used for different kinds of bread and pastry. So I'm now going to use the flour and bake a loaf of bread. So I've got a wholemeal flour from this. I'm going to put that into the bread maker with all the other ingredients and bake for a few hours, and we'll see what happens. Well, I put together all the ingredients to make bread now. That's to say water, oil, salt, flour, most importantly, a little bit of sugar, milk powder and yeast to make it grow. That sound you can hear is it's stirring. This machine is a little stirrer and mini oven. It's called a bread maker, and in a very small scale it replicates what goes on inside a big bakery. So it's going to stir away this program for about 3.5 hours, and hopefully at the end of that we'll have a brown bread loaf. Let's see what happens. Well, while the bread is baking, I'm going to make myself a little drink. Earlier on today I managed to get hold of some apples. I was up a tree in Mountnessing looking for apples. I'm standing by an apple tree here in a garden in Mountnessing, in Padham's Green, and I've got there's some lovely apples here. I'm going to pick one or two of these. Well, that's looking nice. These apples will make some lovely apple juice. I've been chopping up these bits of apple here, and I've now got a load of them in there. I'm going to grind them up now and see what happens. I'm going to grind them up and see what happens. I've been grinding this up, and what's happened at the moment is not really quite ready, but it has produced an apple juice drink. It's a bit thick and frothy. Let's see what it tastes like. Lovely. Well, it's not quite like the apple juice you get in the packet, but it's really, really fresh and zingy. Cheers. Well, the moment of truth. The bread is finished, and this is what we've got left. This is what's got. We've got a nice little loaf because it's quite a small little oven, and it does look like a proper loaf. So I'm going to cut a piece and find out what this is like. No holes in it. Well, that's good. So let's see what that piece of bread tastes like. That's a really nice wholemeal loaf. And we've followed that bread from the field, from the wheat in the field, to grinding the flour and baking the loaf. And that's how we get our bread. Harvest is a time of remembering that everything we eat comes from God in some way. The things that are grown in the soil that depend on air, sunshine, rain in due season, everything comes from God. So it's a time to remember. Our shops have so much good food in them. We never have to worry about whether they'll run out, as in some countries does happen sometimes. And what about the farmers who worry? They look at the sky and think, is it going to rain? Is it going to be a storm? Is it going to be dry weather? Will my crops be harvested? Will they make it? Or will they die? Will I be able to get a good price at the market and be able to feed my family and plant more crops next year? These are questions they worry about. And what about the lorry drivers who work very long hours to get the food to the shops, and the people that work in the shops? All of these people are part of the long chain of getting food to us. Ultimately, it's God who provides the sunshine, the fresh air and the rain. So let's try and be grateful for all the food that we enjoy and not to waste that. Thank you for watching this. I'm Timothy Lee, and it's been good to think about some of the benefits, the blessings that we have at harvest time.